I see you better.
Um,
As soon as you clicked record, the quality just dipped. But okay, welcome everybody to the third episode of Amateur Theory. Today we're going to be talking about the infamous movie Plan 9 from Outer Space, directed by Ed Wood.
yeah, this before The Room, before Troll 2, you had Plan 9 from Outer Space. I guess like the classic So Bad It's Good movie.
Yeah, apparently that phrase was coined for I believe that's what I read, that phrase was coined for this movie. Like some critic came up with the So Bad It's Good for this one, or like they considered the archetype of it or something.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I can kind of see why. So I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, and I think for a while this movie's kind of dubbed like the worst film ever made, because I think one critic said that in a book they wrote of theirs. And I don't know if I'd call it the worst film ever made. It's too entertaining to like truly be like the worst film ever. But
Yeah,
it is
kind of
incompetent to
would you consider The Room the worst movie ever made? Right? Like it's like a question of if it's so bad it's good, does that automatically redeem it as like it's a good movie now, or is it just it's you can just recognize it's bad while it still be does entertaining the end all and good all for a good movie? And maybe it is.
I think if it's entertaining, then I'm happy, because like there's plenty of bad movies that are just bad and also like boring. Like they're just painful to sit through. But something like this or The Room, like I'm enjoying myself the whole time. So I can't like say like I liked it, less than, I don't know, some other piece of shit that I like forgot about.
Yeah.
Like this is a more fun movie to watch than like Batman versus Superman or something. I think.
I actually never watched that, but I've heard stories.
You don't need to.
I think I agree with you, honestly. It's hard for me to call something bad when I liked it, right? Like I watched this twice, and the enjoyment I got from it, I enjoyed it both times. The second time I watched it, like with a more, I tried to be more like a discerning focus. Like the first time I was just kind of like popcorn movie, like, with fun, whatever. The second time I was really trying to pay attention to like what was happening in the plot, because it's not always super clear. And the more like I learned about it, the worse the movie was. But even that was kind of fun in its own way, right? Just like realizing just how terrible, like. Anyway,
Oh yeah,
we'll
the more you pay attention, the more cracks you can see in the film.
yeah, it's that kind of thing where it's like it makes sense if you don't think about it. Like it sums up so much of the plot that goes on. But I guess we'll say it now. Spoilers ahead for this 60-year-old movie if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
We're all. But I guess what should we start with? Should we start with the special effects? I love those flying saucers.
Well, let's go with the basic plot, which is that flying saucers have now shown up over LA, and
they've always been there. They've always been there. Okay, continue.
So aliens have come to visit LA in their flying saucers, and they're raising people from the dead to get the attention of humans.
Let's be. Hey, come on! It's because their souls are too captured. That's the explanation give. Their souls are too captured. We must raise the dead.
I mean, so the aliens, I guess, have been trying to get the attention of, like the U.S. government or whatever for some time, and the U.S. government's just been like ignoring them. Like they have like proof that they exist, but they're just not doing anything about it.
Yeah. And they're never
So
explained. I mean, they could even like hand wave it away and say, we don't want to cause panic or something. But no, it's just, there's no explanation given for why they ignore them. And the so I guess we're gonna get further into the movie. But just to give you a scope of how little like this plot makes sense. So the idea is that the aliens are upset that people are not recognize them. They say over and over like they won't even admit that we exist. Like it's like this big problem. But then later, when our heroes kind of find out about the aliens then say they found out about us. We must kill them. So that already doesn't make any sense at all. But the big reason that they're trying to do this, they're raising people from the dead, right? Is this idea that humanity, and this is a spoiler, it's kind of towards the end, but it's this worry that humanity is going to destroy the universe because they are developed. It's like kind of an anti-war message.
yeah, humans are
there.
getting a little too big for their britches, and
Yeah,
they don't
so
know the power
worried.
they're dealing with.
Mhm.
And somehow the aliens know that we will eventually develop
Like a super
solarite,
bomb.
I think maybe what it was
Yeah.
called. We're gonna create something that's gonna explode the sun and
Right.
create a chain reaction that will end up destroying the universe.
Right. So that's the problem. But their solution to that, because they say they don't want to destroy humanity, because they said if they wanted to destroy humanity, they could have done it any time. Like that's what they say to the humans. But their plan is to raise people from the dead, not an army from the dead. 3 people. There's 3
Yeah.
people in one town that get raised from the dead, and these living dead uh, will occasionally attack people. Um, and so like I don't know the exact like total death count, but they're not very effective. Like they kill a few people here and there. Like maybe like a handful of people die from this the dead. And then the plan gets deeper when the aliens decide to show their destructive powers by killing the dead guys with like a
Yeah,
giant
they
laser.
kill one of
Yeah.
their dead guys to
And the
just
thinking is that the humans will be so impressed by our power, but then they never tell the humans it's them, so the humans are just like bewildered. Like there's this zombie, and the aliens end up saving people because the zombie's about to kill someone, and then they just zap it to death, and it was like,
yeah.
oh good, it's dead now, and that's the end of that. So there's just so many. And then what else is funny is they give a reason for why humans have not been communicating with the aliens because they have there's a language difference. But the humans then discover or create a computer that automatically translates their alien gibberish into English with a supercomputer. And so then the aliens, but then when they meet the aliens face to face, they all just speak English. So and then what's really funny is that
Was there no
ostensibly the
explanation
aliens
given
have
for that?
always had this technology to speak in English, but they just don't. They waited for people to come up with it. Otherwise, they were just sending gibberish the whole time. Oh man, this movie. If it doesn't make any sense, like if you haven't watched this and what we're saying doesn't make sense, it's because the movie doesn't make sense. There's no way to make it make sense. There's just so much problems with this one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, this is an incompetent film on almost every level. Like,
Yeah.
we just talked about the plot and how it's nonsensical. Then I guess, yeah, we can go into the special effects. The UFOs in this movie are, I want
Literally
to say,
like
majestic.
plates on the screen.
They are glorious. It's magnificent.
They well, I think what's really funny is one thing I caught on my second is how much they use curtains. So like it's clear they didn't really have a lot of props or like sets. So like the alien ship is just a big curtain with like some random gizmos thrown in. The airplane, the inside of the airplane is just like a room with a curtain.
Yeah,
There's
and they're just sitting on like normal chairs. Like,
What I thought was really good, there's this scene where the military fires like missiles at the ships, and it's really because it's obvious that they just took like war
Yeah,
footage,
it's
like
stock
real war
footage.
footage. Yeah, stock
Yeah,
footage of like these like guns firing, and there's one actor who's like looking
the
with
colonel.
binoculars, but he's not even outside. He's inside a room,
He's
and
just standing in front of a gray screen,
yeah,
and there and
and they're
there's
like it'll
nothing
show
behind him. Like it's him
right.
just on a completely blank screen. Like
And then they keep on cutting. So this is like kind of like a long scene. Like it goes on for a while.
yeah,
And this is what it is every single. So it's like firing, like explosions, explosions. So it cuts between the stock footage of guns, then between these like tinfoil UFOs on this like
yeah,
just a blank screen with like pictures of clouds,
yeah.
and then
And
just like
like
little
I think
like
firecrackers are
firecrackers.
going
Yeah.
off for the
So it's like this like kind of because I mean the stock footage is actually like decent. Like it's like
yeah.
obviously
Well, the
real
stock
guns
footage
shooting.
it's clearly like these
Yep.
military machines like outside in the middle of the
Right.
desert, like doing some
So
kind of testing. But
like it looks really like it's actually like kind of intense, and then it shows to these little tinfoil UFOs like pop 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 pop. It makes these guns seem like really like ineffective or something. And then it goes to this guy who's in the room. He's just a guy in a room with like a military uniform. And every single time they cut to him, he looks into the sky with his binoculars. So it's
yep.
like, it's not like he's looking with it. It's just, he's like staring and then he's like, and then goes back. Then it does all that again, cuts back to him, back. And that's like 3 times where it comes back to this guy doing the same action. It's just, I mean, it was unbelievable.
And then the UFOs just leave. Like
Yeah.
they're completely still almost while they're getting shot and the firecrackers are going off, not doing anything. And then they just go because they got sick of being shot at.
Another one of my favorite special effect things is when the UFOs were going from Hollywood to DC, and so
Oh yeah.
and then there was so these. I mean, like every parody of a bad UFO you've ever seen in a movie. Like if I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but whenever I see like a TV show like a bad student film, and then the UFOs are like these like little toys that they're putting on strings.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that came from this movie. Like
Probably because this literally is that. It's
right,
just like
yeah,
random
like,
footage of outside look of in a building, and then someone
and then
just
some
like
guy just, like,
dangling a UFO in front of it.
yeah, they look like they're like you can tell they don't have any weight to them.
Yeah.
Like these
I
UFO things are like it looks like I could like they wouldn't even fall if I threw them up in the air. They would kind of float down. Like they're just like really floaty, kind of like pieces. I don't know if it was tinfoil or paper.
No, I read apparently they were just actual like model like toy UFOs
Okay.
they just bought from the store. They were just model toys.
But when they're doing the really fast, so they're going across the United States as part of their plan to be noticed by people for unknown reasons. These like little toys are just like kind of zipping around the screen. Like that was actually one of the things that made me laugh out loud. And then also from when they said from Hollywood to DC, they had like footage of Hollywood, and for DC they just show like this satellite that spins in around. Like there's no footage of DC. It's like from Hollywood to DC, and they're just like an antenna. Woo woo woo. Oh god.
Right.
And then there's the acting. Oh my god, the
acting. So I'm pretty sure half the cast in this movie weren't even actors. They didn't seem like it. It sounded like he just got these people like off the street or something and just gave them scripts and said, "Read this."
What's really fun is there's like more than one moment where like all this like crazy stuff is happening, and then you so the second time I watched it, I actually turned on the subtitles just to make sure I was like reading like the things they were saying. I wasn't like getting it wrong. And they're having like the weirdest back and forths of like small talk. So like there's one scene where they talk about like football, and they're talking about there's like a lot of like flirting going on, like a lot of flirting scenes. And it was just bizarre. Like, and then obviously, I actually had some problem with this in terms of thinking about it because I don't watch that many old films. Like I've watched a number of them. Like I've seen 12 Angry Men. I've seen like Citizen Kane, but I've never really watched like bad. I'm sure there's probably more than one bad movie from like the 50s. So I don't know how this compares to those in terms of both the special effects, the acting, like all of these things. Even if I watch like considered some of the best movies, right? The acting just in the past was just a little bit more dramatic than it was.
It was more
now.
Theatrical, like because.
So
I mean, you couldn't rely as heavily on special effects back then, so you had to kind of like play up the dialogue.
But I'd imagine even by 1950 standards, like this, I mean, obviously it didn't hold up because we know with retrospect it was considered really bad. But I mean, it was kind of like hard for me to discern in terms of their speaking, how much of it is just like 1950 speaking, and how much of it is just like this bizarre, because like no one talks like the way that they talk. I wish I had like written down a quote just to like say, it was kind of funny. I was watching this with my roommate, and she's an aspiring songwriter, so she like actually wrote some of the things they said down because like these would be good lyrics. Like this is just them conversation, but she's like, this is so like it's like kind of poetic in a way, and like in a sense I agreed in that it's poetic as in no one talks like this. Like no one talks.
Yeah, not naturally, no.
But it was just an interesting observation. But yeah, it was just bizarre. And then what really stole the show was the aliens acting, or not the aliens, the Walking Dead guys. All the zombies.
Oh, the zombies.
I love that. So the big man and the woman have the exact same expressions throughout the entire movie. Like they never ever changed. And the guy's expression is something like,
like he's literally doing like the. And the old man zombie, who's portrayed by Bela Lugosi some of the time, and I think by Ed Wood's chiropractor the rest of the time when he's holding the cape in front of his mouth.
Every scene with it was amazing because he has a cape, and when you do see Bela Lugosi's face, he's like doing some like flapping it around, kind of just looking menacing, and then the guy comes and covers his face and just walks around it menacingly. None of the other zombies do that. It's like a weird mix of characters. The lady just kind of like just stares intently. I also love
Vampira. She was, I think she like hosted movies like for a television thing back then, so she was fairly well known.
Yeah,
and she didn't want to have any speaking lines in this movie. She agreed to be in it as long as she didn't have to say anything.
But I love that. So they're kind of like slow walking kind of monsters, and
they are the easiest monsters to escape from, and yet people still fuck up.
They actually did this smartly, where every single like attack is generally off screen. Like usually they're just like walking slowly, fade to black, and screaming, and so like you don't know. You can like imagine, but then the one time they show him actually attack someone, the man karate chops. Did you see that? Did you catch that?
Big dude, he does a
double karate chop, and the guy just collapses. Like that's what these scary zombies are doing. They're doing karate chops. and then with the guys are like and then near the end, what they manage to subdue one of these zombies. They shoot guns, and the guns are ineffective. So to get around this, the guy just grabs a big stick and just whacks the guy on the head, and then that just kills the zombie instantly. Just bam, he's down. He's down for the count, or it doesn't kill him, I think. And then they like try to like explain this away, the lead alien guy is like explaining like, oh, it's because our rays are off. If our rays were on, that wouldn't have worked, which doesn't make any sense. But the whole thing is just bizarre.
Well, I love the scene where
creepy.
it's, I think, the pilot's wife. She's home by herself. She's like going to bed, and
Yeah.
the old man zombie comes in. He just comes from the cemetery into her house somehow, into her bedroom. So she wakes up screaming. She just kind of walks around him and leaves the room. So she's
And then
escaped
she
by
just
this
like
point.
faints.
No, but the next shot is her running through the cemetery. And
Why?
I think the characters have established that weird things are happening in the cemetery. Oh, and this is supposed to take place at night, I think, right? But
Yeah.
there are shots of her sometimes in the field, and it's obviously daytime when they filmed it, and so she faints at one point, I think. Some random dude in a truck comes over, stops by to help her up, and when he's doing this, like you can see the like background of the field, and there's no cemetery. But then the camera will cut to like close-ups of the zombies as if they're like close to him, like if they're a threat. But the shots obviously haven't established that. Like the geography of the characters in relation to each other is just so janky and out of place. And not to mention the continuity error with the day and night thing.
There's just a lot there. I have so many things written down about just like, but I don't know if I don't know if I want to go point by point with every single problem there is with this movie, because there's just so many. We could be talking about like for hours and hours. But just kind of generally, I mean, this movie did make me laugh, like out loud laughing more than once. Like there was several times. Like even some good comedies don't do that. Like this one, like really. I mean, overall, I definitely enjoyed it. Like I would definitely recommend. I don't know if do you think you could recommend this to anybody? Like, could anybody watch this and appreciate it, or do you kind of have to be like a bit of a movie file or like appreciate old movies to appreciate this?
Yeah, I'd say you need to be a little bit of a movie file, or you need to be at least someone who likes, I guess, watching bad films in a way. Like,
Yeah, I suppose not everyone does.
because there could be some people that I just see them watching this and be like, "Oh, why'd you show this to me? This is weird and dumb."
Yeah,
But
but
the word I would use, I
yeah,
think, to describe this film is charming. Like, I mean, just watching like these toy UFOs dangling in front of like just random like stock footage of LA. Like it's hard to like be angry at this movie just because it's kind of so like, aw,
there
you
is.
tried. I can see it. You tried a little.
There was this one really like. 'Cause, I mean, it is 1950s movies. For a 1950s movie, you know, it doesn't get too like. There's not a lot of like. I shouldn't say there's not a lot. There's like none. There's like no racism because everyone's white, so that's part of it. But there is this one sexist moment that is like so overtly sexist that like it actually made me laugh too. Maybe it's bad, I don't know, but it was just so ridiculous. The boy alien is like explaining to the humans about like how they might destroy the world, and then the lady alien starts talking, and she literally says like almost the exact same thing, like almost the exact same thing. She's like, "Yeah, we're just really worried that you guys might, you know, destroy the world." And if you look at the guy when she's talking, like as soon as she starts talking, his expression is like it's really angry. Like he's getting like increasingly pissed off that she's mentioning. And so then he grabs her and literally like throws her down. And he's like, "In my country, women are for advancing the species, not for getting in the affairs of men." Or something. And then it just never brought him again. Like, what? What was that? It was just so jarring to watch. Like, why?
Yeah,
And then they mentioned like women being hysterical a couple times in the movie too. Like
yeah, that's
it's like, oh, obviously she was hysterical. And it's like, well, yes, she was hysterical, but So there's a couple of things like that in there, which is just, I mean,
Is it
but
really an old black and white film if they don't talk about a woman being hysterical at one point?
it's, I mean, I can't talk for everyone, but it's just, I mean, it's just so ridiculous that it's even hard to be like outraged about it. Because it's like
Oh
I
no,
said,
you can't be.
it's
Like,
so ridiculous. Like I don't know,
yeah.
but yeah, overall, I would say, you know, casual sexism aside, maybe it's a charming movie. The heroes are very like like I'm a tough guy and I'm like protecting my woman and that's like their whole. There's one part where the alien is like confronting one of the guys and the alien's like, people are stupid, and the guy's like, well, hold on, Buster, and he gets like really upset.
Yeah.
And they get into like a fist fight. Oh.
And I think the alien mentions God, and he's like, "You believe in God?" It's like, just because we're aliens or whatever, even we can believe in God.
It's like those 1950s values are just seeping in. But yeah, I mean, if you appreciate bad movies, or if you just appreciate movie history, we didn't even talk a lot about, Ed Wood, and we both watched the biopic of him by Johnny Depp. If you haven't seen that, that's a great movie. So Ed Wood is an interesting character in general, and I mean, Bela Lugosi is a famous, very famous actor. We talked about Vampira a little bit, but like, there's a lot of star power of this movie too, which is just kind of fun. I don't know if we mentioned, this is Bela Lugosi's last appearance.
Yeah, well, he died before.
Right. And the films he was shot in like weren't even for this movie. They kind of like.
Yeah, I think it was just
posthumously
footage of Ed Wood had lying around.
But yeah, if you like old movies, you're interested in movie history, or you just appreciate bad films, like definitely give this one a watch. It's it's
like,
pretty.
I'd probably call this like the classic, like probably like sci-fi B movie from the 50s.
Yeah.
Like, this is like just infamous. It's
So I watched this on YouTube, which, this movie is on YouTube for free in its entirety, which is awesome. The next suggested movie was this other 50s movie called Teenagers from Space, and I might give that one a watch too, because I want to see what that's about.
No, I think back day there were like a ton of like cheap sci-fi films, just put out by like studios that wanted to like make a cheap buck or something. Like, they didn't like give a shit about the actual quality. Like,
I think that's horror movies now. You can find a lot of bad horror.
Oh,
films. Yeah. if you're
that's been horror movies for a while now, I think.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. This is kind of a horror film. Do you think it's more horror or science fiction? It's a cross of both. It's a way to get zombie movies, a zombie movie crossed with an alien invasion movie. Yeah. With an anti-war message. I just love that they did that. There's like, they try to make it really deep, but
yeah, well, I think this 50s, it was still kind of close to World War II, so I think people were still like thinking about the ramifications of like nuclear technology, and like, is man kind of like getting too arrogant. Yeah. Oh, just interesting note, this, I think 59 this movie came out, so that's a whole 10 years before Night of the Living Dead, which is kind of, I think, what most people consider the first classic zombie movie. But just that you have this cheap shitty B film 10 years earlier, which kind of had zombies beforehand, is interesting.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Ed Wood got the inspiration from like classic voodoo zombies or anything, but I don't know.
The fact that they had Bela Lugosi, which, I mean, if you're not familiar, he's famous for being the titular Nosferatu. And so, like,
if you think of Dracula, you're thinking of Bela Lugosi, probably. Like, he is Dracula, pretty much.
So I'm sure that helped inspire things, and the fact that he had Vampira, who she was like a hostess for like a kind of a horror themed. I don't know as much about her, but I know that she is involved in that kind of campy horror too. So I'm sure there's lots of influences there. But I think we've wrapping it up. Watch this, please. I want more people to talk about this with.
it's
'Cause
only
it's-
an hour and 20 minutes, and
yeah,
so even on
and it's
the
on.
off chance that you don't like it for whatever reason, you weirdo, it's not like you'll be losing too much of your life. Yeah, no, you'll enjoy this movie. Get some friends together, grab a couple beers, popcorn, and let the magic happen.
Yes. All right. Well, until next time, thank you.
See it.